Hi everyone. You have picked up the Dungeons and Dragons Camp Kit, and I can't wait to get started. So, why did you pick up this kit? Are you interested in Dungeons and Dragons? Are you hoping to just have a fun experience with friends? Any of these things are fine. All of this is great. We are going to have a lot of info for new players, people who haven't played the game before, who are just starting out. But there's also going to be a lot of stuff to do for those players who are more experienced. And so I welcome all of you, all experience levels. We're going to have a great week. Your kit includes everything that you will need for camp. We're focusing a lot on making our characters, telling their stories, and playing the game. Hopefully all of the technology works out and we're able to join each other on Discord. So in your kit, you are going to find that there are 2 craft bags. So there's one for making your own dice bag, and then there is one for making your mini, okay? And we'll get into more about minifigures later, but just a fun activity for everyone. You'll also find a journal, a pen, and a pencil. You'll find a set of dice, those 2 craft kits I told you, the mini craft kit and the dice craft kit. You'll also find my business card. It's very small, look for it though. And if you have any questions, you can definitely email me about whatever questions you have as we're going along. And we'll also have that time together on Discord if you are willing to join. The last thing you'll find in there is your Warriors and Weapons book. And this is kind of like a baby version of the Player's Handbook. That about does it for our intro. Welcome to the week of camp. We're ready to get started now. Go ahead, like I said, this is definitely a program that you can feel free to skip around. You can do the crafts on any day that you want to. You don't have to wait for me to say, okay, it's craft time. Just skip around through this DVD and you can find what you're looking for. Our Discord days are every day from 1 to 2 though, and we will be on a schedule for those days, starting with character creation. Then we'll go through character sheets and things like that. We'll talk about backstories. We'll talk about how to DM. And then last but not least, we will play the game, hopefully, as long as everything works out. So there you go. Let's get started. What is Dungeons and Dragons? Dungeons and Dragons is a collaborative tabletop role-playing game. Each of these words is important in describing what it is you do when you play this game. So let's break it down. Number 1, game. Pretty easy. Something you play, usually with others, right? We've all played games before. Done. Tabletop. Okay. So tabletop, this one makes sense to everyone, right? You have a table, it has a top, and you play there. So essentially, it's just a place that you can roll your dice on so that they stay put, right? Yes, but it really means more like you aren't playing a video game, if that makes sense. And occasionally there might be boards or pieces. This is where your minifigures would come in. Okay, we've got that down. Now, role-playing. This one is tough for a lot of people when they start to play D&D. When you play this game, you are playing as your character. You are not yourself moving a meeple around like you would in a regular board game. You are Minarath Greybeak of Skull Mountain. I just made that up. We are going to spend a lot of time building our characters, and this is exactly why we're doing that. Because you are your character in this game. Last but not least, collaborative. This game is all about teamwork. If you aren't working as a team, it's not going to work at all. You work in this game as a team to solve problems, to fight the bad guys, all of it together. If your group doesn't work as a team, the game, it's basically almost impossible. And zero fun. Zero fun. No fun at all. So that's the high level overview of this game. But we talked a little bit about pieces, right? How do you play? All you need for Dungeons and Dragons are dice, a pencil, paper, a character sheet, and your imagination. Everything is included in your kit except your brain. You need that. That's the one thing you have to put in there. So there are other things you can use too. So we talked about those minifigures, right? Those, you have one included in your kit here. Maps are another thing that you could include. And then source books and materials are also a great addition to the game. But they have a cost associated with them, and it can be pretty expensive to get started when you're just brand new to the game. Usually there are 2 to 6 people who play the game, and then 1 game or dungeon master who runs the game. You can have more people in your party, but it gets a little dicey. That's a D&D joke. If you're not experienced and you're not careful with how many people you have involved in your game, it can really get messy, especially if you have one person who is trying to be like the warlord of everything and wants to take over the world, but you're really like not about that. So there you go. That's why you want to have fewer people. A little background info for you about Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons has been around since the 1970s. That's a long time. A long time. There are so many books and movies that have been influenced by this game. Probably one you're familiar with is Stranger Things. When it first started getting its pull, people actually thought it was bad. They thought it was an evil game that nobody should play. As more people saw it and it got popularized in the media, it became more mainstream and accessible. Since this game has been around for such a long time, there have been a lot of different versions of it. Currently, we are playing 5th edition, commonly abbreviated as 5e. It makes the game more accessible by focusing less on mechanics and rules and more on the story, which is super important, especially when you work in a library. There are still a lot of rules, and each player, each character has a different set of rules that they have to focus on. It's okay. It's going to be okay. We are all learning as we go. My first character was a magic user, but I didn't understand how to use spells, so she just hit things instead. Poorly. It all works out. It's going to be great. I think that covers a lot of it. We'll get into more in-depth information when we get to building our characters. If you want, you can look at the helpful resource document on your USB drive. You can look at things like the player's handbook. You can look at the basic rules. And also there are a bunch of different websites that have information about character building and just the game in general. I also have the Wizards of the Coast D&D page on there as well. So use that resource page to kind of help you navigate through this as we go.